Hello and welcome back. So in this episode we want to enable the ship to shoot down and destroy these monsters. And we need to connect the monster to its health script. So for that, why don't we just open up the enemy, and I think I'll just do all of this in a single script. So that'll be in ground AI. And actually, you know what? That's a bad idea because we're gonna have flying AI as well. And so we'll just call this enemy health. And since we imported the Unity engine.ui, we can simply use the health slider. We can simply use the slider, whatever, you know what I mean, the slider type as a variable. In update, why don't we just update the slider every single frame? No, actually, why don't we wait till he takes damage? So we'll update it once at the beginning, health slider dot value equals 1. Alright, so we have max health visible in the inspector. Health won't be visible because when the game starts, we're just going to set the current health to the max health. And then we have our health slider and our healing amount. Every frame we're going to update by healing amount if health is less than max health. And take damage, that'll be a public function because we're going to call it from other game objects. And yeah, I think that should be about it for now. Oh, and sorry, when we take damage, we want to update the slider. So health slider dot value equals, it's going to be, we need a ratio. So if we're at max health, so here's our slider. We have max health. We have 0. Let's say we're at the halfway point. So this is 0.5. Let's say max health is 1,000. And the halfway point would be 500. So when health I'm trying to think. If you divide 500 by 1,000, what does that get you? 0.5, right? No, obviously not. I can't think today. 1,000 divided by 500 is 2. I know that the formula for this is really simple. I don't know why I can't think of it right now. I've been staring at my computer screen for like 5 hours straight, so my brain is kind of tired, but I just need a basic health slider formula. Well, that's not useful. Oh, actually, Unity has a really nice built-in way to calculate this. So we're going to say health slider dot max value equals max health, and then we can just say health slider dot value equals health, like that. And then I think it should calculate the ratio for us. So let's say, yeah, just it also just occurred to me that this is rotating exactly backward, which is super irritating. So why don't we try to fix that first? So we have utility, rotate toward camera. All right, so the rotation is now fixed. And we need to make sure that we're updating the health correctly. So I'm going to click on Spiker Health, and this needs a enemy health script with a reference to the Spiker Health slider. All right, so he starts off with full health. And why don't we just drop his health way down? Ah, hit the wrong button. And we want to make sure that we update the health slider when he's healing. Alright, so he's at max health. Let's damage him. And when I hit play, he should start healing. And you can see this slowly rising. So that's exactly what we want. Now we just need to enable the player to attack the enemy. Alright, so if I click on the Reaper, I think that I'll put the attack behavior in the Reaper script. Another thing to consider right now is there's probably going to be a lot of enemies. And he's going to have to find the closest one to him and start targeting that one. So we probably want some sort of management that lets him easily find enemies, because we don't want to search through every game object in the scene. And in the past, I've created like game object managers, and whenever these actors are spawned into the game, they register themselves with the actor, or I mean with the manager, and then as they're destroyed, they remove themselves. I'm not going to do that now because I know that my computer is going to run this fine. And like everything's pretty low poly and pretty straightforward. And usually I write decently optimized code. So I'm not going to worry about it now because I don't think that it's going to be an issue. But if this was a professional project, you would probably want some sort of game object manager where you could search through them. For now, I think I'm actually just going to make him look through all of the game objects, maybe like once per second. No, that just seems like a terrible idea. Instead, you know, I could give him a giant collider. Like he could have a giant sphere collider. We could make this like that big, and then as things enter the sphere, we could register them with him, and he could keep track of who's in his sphere, and then he could know who to target. Or we could literally search through all the enemies. I think at the most we're going to have 100 enemies, and so that would be fine to search through, but then at the same time, if we also have 100 ships searching through 100 enemies, that's a lot of processing. So I think I will actually try out this sphere idea. I've never done this before, so maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So he's got a sphere collider. We're going to set is trigger. And we need to make sure each of these spiked enemies have a box collider. And you know, I don't think that the box colliders will register a collision with the trigger unless they also have rigid bodies. So why don't we just add rigid bodies and make them kinematic. So everything still works the same. Let's make sure we're actually registering these collisions. So I wish that Unity would just clean this up on its own. I attached scripts to these and then I took them off, and now I have to go back and clean this up because I'm getting warnings down here. Alright, so the warnings are gone. Why don't we open up the Reaper script and make sure that we're registering these collisions. Void on trigger enter. And I think that brings in a collider. Why don't we check that? Yep, collider. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3 collisions. So we found each of the game objects multiple times. So that's good. There's also an onTriggerStay method. We might want to look into that. Unity onTriggerStay. All right, so this is being called a lot more. What's the best way to go about this? Because I could use this to keep track of what's inside this guy. You know what? I think what I'll do. You know, I wish that this gave an array of everything that was inside. So I'm just gonna say onTrigger enter. And we're gonna create a list of the nearby game objects. So public game object enemy. No, see, I don't want to waste too much time on this. I'm just gonna say onTriggerStay. If I can fire, just do it, and then whoever gets hit gets hit. Alright, so when we start the game, cooldown time is equal to 0. Time starts moving up and ticks past cooldown time, setting can fire to true. When we have a target, when can fire is true, this should be equals. If can fire is true, set it to false, create an attack, and set our cooldown time into the future. And then in the attack, we check if enemy has health. If they do, give them damage. And surprisingly, it's not doing anything. Alright, so we made it to there. And we made it to there. And we made it to there. Oh, and we made it to there. So it looks like we are actually damaging the enemy. And every time I try to type health, it fakes me out, and it makes me think that it's about to. It makes me think it's going to suggest health, and then for some reason it seems like it always jumps to the method, like right as I hit enter. So I'm going to rename this to take damage. There we go. So now he's just rapidly massacring these things. Alright, so when they first let's set the cooldown duration to something like 0.5 and give him a public damage. And I think that I made a mistake here because it seems like it's constantly calling this attack method, and I only wanted it to call it every 0.5 seconds when cooldown duration is 0.5. So can fire is set to false, and it only comes back to true when cooldown time is greater than time.time. Oh, that should be less than, that's why. And now you can see there's this kind of a slow, it's like a slow repeating increment here. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is increase damage to like 400. And I want these things to actually die, preferably with an explosion of blood. So this is going to emit in a sphere. The particles should receive gravity. Gravity modifier 1. There's no emission, it's just a explosion. Make the color red. Start size. Random between two constants. Let's do like, and I'll set this to 1 so it repeats faster. So I could do like 0.2 to 2. And start color, why don't we give this a little bit more variation? Random between two colors. And why don't we give these collisions? So create a collision. I'm going to set the ground to static. Where's that plane? Static. Particle system. Collision with planes. Why don't we do like 0.1 bounce? Dampen by like 1. That's looking much better. Drop that into prefabs. All right, now in business. So when we die, we want to create the public game object blood prefab. When we take damage, oh, that's an enemy health. Whoops. Control X to cut. Enemy health. Paste. And intake damage if health Wait, what happened here? So for some reason I renamed this to take damage. I don't know what I was thinking there. This should be, oh, because I remember I tried to rename it like so that heal wouldn't override health when I was trying to type health. I don't know what I was thinking there. So let's just call this self heal. There we go. Now when we take damage, if health is less than 1 or 0, we're going to instantiate the blood prefab. So that's going to be GameObject.instantiate blood prefab, transform.position, transform.rotation, and then we're going to destroy ourselves. Oh, okay, and that failed because not all of these have a reference to the blood. So let's just make sure we apply this and delete it from the scene. Nice. All right. We need to make sure those stop spraying blood. So the blood spray gets a die after time script. Let's just say 3. I think I set the duration to like 8 actually, so let's just set it to 8. Alright, so I'm going to cut this video off here. I'll see you guys next time.